What's up, everyone? It's Benedict here, aka BHL Hudson, aka Bald HL Hudson. I did get a haircut. I'm hoping I look kind of fresh, maybe a little bald. Welcome back to the BHL2 channel. Today we're talking about a little bit of news mixed with a little bit of a history video. We're talking about the history of Oscar smear campaigns, with the latest stuff happening with Josh Safdie, which I wanted to talk about. I feel like this could be a good opportunity to talk about throughout the history of the Academy Awards, how leading up to them, there are often articles coming out, allegations, all this kind of stuff that can derail a film's chances at the awards. Not even allegations, just sort of narratives about them. So I'm going to go through, I've mixed them up the different years here throughout history. We go all the way back to 1942 at one point, and we're also talking mostly more recent stuff that I actually remember myself. But before we get into it, a quick disclaimer here. I do just want to say the term like smear campaign, it's kind of a catch-all term, and it makes for a catchier title to the video. But I feel like it does imply, like, falsehood in some sense, or, like, it's being done just to smear a movie's chances, whereas, for some of these, there are real allegations here that, I'm not saying definitively have been just said to hurt a movie's chances. Like, we'll talk about, for example, towards the end, there's a thing about James Franco. Those are real allegations that came out. They were around award season, and they did torpedo his chances at the Oscars. But it's not like they were, just done for this kind of thing. But some of these other ones, maybe it seems like maybe it's a little suspicious, the timing of it or whatever. We'll get into it. It should be interesting. First one we're going to start off with, though, is the recent one, the sort of impetus for this video, the Josh Safdie debacle, where Page 6 has reported, Josh Safdie, of course, is nominated this year for Marty Supreme. He's, I would say one of the, top, probably two candidates for winning Best Director this year. And I think right after his nomination, this Page 6 report came out about why him and his brother Benny Safdie split up making movies, because they were very famous for making films together. They made Good Time, they made Uncut Gems, some other stuff, but those are the two main ones. And this Page 6 report, there are allegations here about how on the set of Good Time, there was a scene, a sexually involving scene with a non-professional actor and an actress who was 17 years old, where the non-professional actor acted sexually inappropriate. Josh Safdie was directing, whereas Benny Safdie, he was sort of, taking point on that scene that day of shooting, I guess, whereas Benny Safdie was on the boom mic. Josh found out about the girl's age later that day, and Benny found out, according to this report, in 2022 when there was a big divorce lawsuit involving someone who worked on the film, and then all this stuff came out or whatever. And it's basically a legend that's why they don't work together anymore. Or that's at least part of the reason, because Josh Safdie had Marty Supreme this year, Benny Safdie had The Smashing Machine. It was sort of interesting why they split up, and also they have basically competing Oscar movies. So again, this is alleged by this article, and this is, pretty serious allegation. I mean, that sounds pretty bad. I will also say the reason that this has been sort of labeled a smear campaign, or the idea of a smear campaign has come up in the articles about this, is because of the timing of it, especially since the alleged incident happened back in 2017 or 2016, whenever they were shooting Good Time. And the whole divorce thing where, this stuff came out apparently to Benny was back in 2022. So why is it coming out right now specifically? I feel like that's why some people are thinking, is this a way, what's the political thing? Opposition research kind of thing, where you take someone out of a race for bad headlines coming out. I don't know, but it's certainly not a good look. Again, alleged. I'm not trying to get sued or anything, but there was also, I think, another thing that led to this being sort of smear campaign adjacent feeling is that there was also a Daily Mail article about how the real Marty Supreme guy, Marty Reisman, I want to say, his family had some things to say about how he was sort of portrayed in the film as Marty Mauser. And now again, that's not necessarily to derail it. I think the family even said that they weren't trying to derail the Oscar chances or something. But it just is the timing of it. You know what I mean? It comes out right when this movie's up for it, right when Timothée Chalamet is pretty much guaranteed. Not guaranteed, but I think he's the favorite to win Best Actor. Interesting. Yeah. So that's what's happening now with the Oscar campaign. Will more stuff come out? Who's to say? But let's look at the about other films as well, because let's look at the history with 2025 specifically. This was what made me want to do this video, because I remember last year was a fucking crazy year for smear campaign narratives coming up, allegations, bad looks for different films. And I was like, yeah, there was, because I remember, of course, there's the famous one with Karla Sofia Gascon. But there was a bunch of stuff. So let's start with 2025, actually, as the first year to look back on here, where, we had Karla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, the whole controversy with her, the Brutalist AI controversy, the Anora intimacy coordinator controversy, and the Fernanda Torres blackface controversy. Let's start with Karla Sofia Gascon, who was the first trans actress nominated in the Best Actress category, I believe. And shortly after her nomination, where, if I remember correctly, I feel like she was the favorite to win at a certain point. I mean, especially for the, like, historical relevance of her nomination. And Emilia Perez had, like, a lot of momentum despite a lot of people, once they saw it, not liking it. But here, journalist Sarah Hagee dug up some tweets from Karla Sofia Gascon, which effectively took her out of the Best Actress race, and led to some pretty funny jokes from Conan at the actual awards. But there were a bunch of tweets that were anti-Islam or Islamophobic in some way, and this is translated from Variety translated these, I'm taking them from the article. There was a post about George Floyd, which, please don't clip this, but I'm going to read it out because it's kind of like an insane thing to tweet. She wrote, "I really think that very few people ever cared about George Floyd, a drug addict swindler, but his death has served to once again demonstrate that there are people who still consider black people to be monkeys without rights and consider policemen to be assassins. They're all wrong." Just insane post. I mean, the sentiment at the end that people who think all policemen are assassins and people who think all black people are monkeys are wrong. I guess that's a fair sentiment. But the first bit about George Floyd, just kind of just a wild tweet, crazy thing to tweet. Bad look. And then the even funnier part, just because it's specifically about the Oscars, she also tweeted, "More and more, the hashtag Oscars are looking like a ceremony for independent and protest films. I didn't know if I was watching an Afro-Korean festival, a Black Lives Matter demonstration, or the 8M, which I believe is like an International Women's Day, March 8th. Apart from that, an ugly, ugly gala." I believe this was in 2020 as well, or 2021, which is, so relatively recently. So beyond the offensive tweets that she did otherwise, the fact that she also had one that was both offensive and directed at the Oscars, calling the Oscars, first of all, like calling it an ugly, ugly gala, and then also having an offensive element to the tweet, Afro-Korean festival, whatever. Just hilarious. I mean, just the circumstance. Again, I think about the Conan joke about how there were, 400 F words in Anora, and that's only been beaten by Karla Sofia Gascon's publicist. Insane. But so this was all dug up, and this, I mean, I don't know if this is a smear campaign, like it was dug up to prevent her chances from winning, or if it was just incidental that someone found this journalist found this at this time. But it completely fucked her chances of winning. I don't think it fucked Emilia Perez completely out of awards. I think Zoe Saldana won stuff. I think it won Best Original Song. But yeah, Emilia Perez, anyway, it sort of started with all this momentum, and then this happened, and then also people found the movie to be kind of offensive, and also other people found the movie to be just kind of bad. Fascinating case study of an awards contender. But then in the same year, we had the Brutalist AI controversy. Now, this is like, the reason I don't know if you can call this like a smear campaign or something is because it was said by the guy it was said by the editor of the Brutalist. He told Red Shark News that they had used AI to like perfect the Hungarian or something, the accents or the language or something like that. People were obviously, none too pleased about that. I feel like as time goes on, I might make a video about this. We're going to see more and more AI stuff being used in film, and it'll be less stigmatized and whatnot. Which again, a discussion for another day, but especially at this time, last year when it was sort of first happening more, and it was an awards contest, it was a prestigious film and all this kind of stuff. There was definite backlash to that. Brutalist still did okay at the Oscars, I think. I mean, Adrian Brody won. I'm not sure what else it won. But yeah, that was a controversy. Then the Anora thing. Again, this came straight from the source, but Mikey Madison said, I think in an Actors on Actors video, that she didn't use an intimacy coordinator for Anora during, because it's a very sexually explicit movie, tons of sex scenes. And that drew some backlash. I think if I recall, the main sort of point was that, like, even if you feel comfortable with it, like, an intimacy coordinator is not just there for the actors, it's also there to make sure, like, the set, people on set and everything else is sort of all comfortable and going fine. But that did not, it was a controversy. It did not hurt her campaign because she won Best Actress. And then this feels, I don't know, a smear campaign, but like it came up, it resurfaced right when she got the nomination. But Fernanda Torres apparently did blackface in like a Brazilian TV show back in the day, and she had to apologize for that. How much that affected her chances, I'm not sure. She didn't win. Mikey Madison won. But yeah, 2025 was a fucking crazy year for Oscar controversies, and how much of this was like opposition research, people planting the seeds, putting it out there to help their film. Who's to say? I don't know how the behind the scenes stuff works, but there was an unusual amount of stuff happening last year. Now, I mean, let's just go through some various cases throughout history. I've jumped back and forth in time, so we don't just end up with like the ones in the fucking 1940s at the end. But one that I thought was kind of interesting and sort of funny was Citizen Kane back in 1942. This is from an LA Times article that I got a few of these from when researching this. But I'll read here what it says. The movie was considered a thinly veiled swipe at real-life newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst, who did not take kindly to the celluloid portrait. He attempted to blacklist it through negative press in his Hearst newspaper chain, and along with his defenders, pressured theaters not to show it. And they go on to note that Citizen Kane won a single Oscar for original screenplay. How Green Was My Valley won Best Picture. Now this one's extra interesting to me because, first of all, I knew How Green Was My Valley beating Citizen Kane is sort of seen as one of the great Oscar upsets, or the wrong movie won the Oscar type situations. I will say, just independently of all this, How Green Was My Valley is a great fucking movie. I'll be honest. I think it's not as revolutionary as Citizen Kane, but I would say they're pretty close in quality. So I don't know. It is actually a great movie. How much this William Randolph Hearst thing played into it, winning not winning, who's to say? But I do think it's just very interesting that this sounds like it could be like in the movie Citizen Kane. Like it was a movie about, this newspaper tycoon who tried to control things and who, lived not a super happy life, especially towards the end or whatever. And I don't know, the fact that the guy that it might have been vaguely based on, he had this reaction to it. I think that's kind of quite interesting. But yeah, we move on to 2024, where this less smear campaign, more just of note. Well, first of all, I'm talking about the movie Maestro with Bradley Cooper, and this is something I remember. I'm not sure this was around award season. I think when it was first announced, the first trailer came out or something. But first, there was controversy around the nose, the Bradley Cooper nose, because he was playing Leonard Bernstein, who's a Jewish man, and he had like a prosthetic nose, and people thought that was offensive. My personal take on that, I think he was just playing like a guy with a distinct nose. Leonard Bernstein has a distinct nose. I don't think Bradley Cooper was like, let's break out the Jewish nose for this one. Like, I think it's just he was playing that character, and the character has a distinct nose, so he wore makeup for it. But the more closer to Oscar season thing was less any big controversy, but just more, I remember people clowning him relentlessly, like on social media. I guess this was more like an organic thing, but you could just feel the momentum of it because I guess Maestro felt so much like someone trying to win an Oscar. Like, he directed this movie, he starred in this movie, it's this biopic, it's epic, it's black and white or whatever. I didn't see it. It's meant to be prestigious. He learned how to compose or do whatever, play however many instruments, whatever he did. And just no one was into it, no one was buying it. And I just remember, there was a lot of clowning on Bradley Cooper. How justified? Who's to say? I didn't see the movie. My parents watched it. They said it was extremely boring. And they're fans of Leonard Bernstein, so that's a bit of an indictment. But yeah, I just remember that as, I don't know if that's a smear campaign, but just the more he didn't win awards throughout awards season, and the more like memes I saw of it or like reactions or whatever, it just felt like by the end it was like, well, he's obviously not winning the Oscar. So yeah, that's one that sticks out in my mind. Another one from the LA Times here. We have in 1986, The Color Purple had a controversy and or I don't know about smear campaign, but let's read what it says here. When the film was released in 1985, it immediately sparked a backlash, coming under fire for its depiction of rape and stereotypical representations of black men, a portrayal that Spike Lee decried as one-dimensional animals. It also faced criticism for having been directed by a white man, During a special screening in Los Angeles, the Coalition Against Black Exploitation staged a protest. And then the result, or what happened at the Oscars, Out of Africa took home the Best Picture trophy. The Color Purple was shut out, vying with 1977's The Turning Point, which also earned 11 nods, for the most nominated film to take home 0 awards. So yeah, I have not seen The Color Purple, the old one. I remember they did a new one a few years ago, and I remember that being sort of described as the proper way of doing it, or a more accurate, tasteful, I don't know. I'm not sure if the movie is untasteful, but according to Spike Lee it is, but the circumstances, the behind the scenes of it all. But yeah, this is just an example of one where perhaps there was something to people not being a fan of how it was done that led to it going from sort of like earning 11 nominations to not winning any awards. Of note, we go to 2023, the Brendan Fraser fat suit controversy. Fraser? It's Fraser, right? Yeah, not Fraser. This did not hurt his chances because he still won the award. And I thought he gave a great performance. But I remember there was controversy around him, Brendan Fraser and the Whale, having the big fat suit on, and people being upset about that. And there's a whole thing about, fat suits are offensive. I'm a big fan of the show New Girl, and I feel like I see occasionally like, I love New Girl, but it's aged poorly with the Schmidt fat suit stuff. And yeah, this was less like an orchestrated thing, I feel like, where there was like big articles coming out. It was just, even from the moment it sort of came out, there was this question of, is it offensive or not? Yeah, where I land on it, no, I don't think it's offensive. I mean, I think the movie is sort of, I think it's a good movie. It's a sad movie. It's a little bit of an unintentionally funny movie just because it's so over the top and in your face. And I mean, the fat suit is part of that. But in terms of it being offensive that Brendan Fraser wore a fat suit to play this character, I don't personally think that's offensive. But that was, I remember, a thing around the time of The Whale and possibly around award season. Did not stop him from winning, though. And, he's good in that movie, and also just as a human being, he seems like one of the cooler people in Hollywood. I'm glad he got his moment with winning an Oscar. And, I say that like an obituary or something. Maybe there's more to come. More Oscar wins for the GOAT, Brendan. We move on to another example from the LA Times article, A Beautiful Mind in 2002, where more sort of narratives coming out about the film and real life, how accurate it is to real life sort of stuff was a thing. Here from the LA Times, a narrative caught fire with critics who began charging that the more negative parts of Nash's life were omitted from the film. Accusations that Nash was an anti-Semite, adulterer, and homophobe began to appear in reviews, gossip sites, and news articles, prompting him to appear on 60 Minutes to refute the claim. Angered by the reports, Sylvia Nassar, the author of the book on which the movie was based, wrote an op-ed for the Times rebuking journalists and saying they had distorted material from her book and invented facts. Now, I believe A Beautiful Mind did win Best Picture that year, so this did not prevent it from having success. I was like 90% sure that there was some Russell Crowe controversy here where he like beat someone up or something, but that might have been some other time. When didn't he hit someone with a phone in a hotel at one point? That I don't see that here. That probably would have come up in this article if that was at this time. So that was possibly at a different time. But yeah, there you'll notice there's a bit of a pattern or a recurring thing where controversies from the past are about the real character or person that was not included in the film comes up. Or if it was like changed in some way, we'll talk about Green Book, where people were not happy about how they seemed to change the life of the main guy and his relationships with people. We move on to the 2022 Jane Campion Williams sisters controversy. Again, less of a smear campaign, more like it's just a thing that someone said. It was what's it called? Not a flub. The thing politicians used to do that would be bad for them, but now it doesn't matter. You do some kind of, you say something wrong, you put your foot in your mouth type of thing, and then it garnered controversy. I mean, this video could just be like Oscar controversies or whatever, but smear campaign, I'm going with that for the title. But this is from NPR, in her speech, where she won some award before the Oscars, Campion, the only woman nominated in the category, praised the Williams sisters as marvels in their craft, but implied that the two black women did not face the same battles in gender equality as women in film. Now, let me actually pull up the actual quote here, but this was, for context, when she was nominated for Power of the Dog, and the Williams sisters were, in and around award season because they were, it was the King Richard year. Let me see what she actually said here. Serena and Venus, you are marvels. However, you don't play against the guys like I have to, Campion said with a laugh. She later apologized for this. So yeah, again, less of a smear campaign, more just like she said something kind of weird and had to apologize for it. But she did win Best Director, so, you know, it did not hurt her chances too much, or did not have as much of an effect. And she apologized and everything, you know, wasn't as big of a deal. Next up, we have Green Book, which this falls, I don't know if this falls into like, I mean, it's more of a campaign or more of a larger narrative than just like a single moment. But again, smear, I guess it was smearing it, but a lot of this seems pretty fucking justified to me, to be honest. And I'm already not a big fan of the movie Green Book. I think just as a movie, I think it's like just so simple and in your face and like the least deep, nuanced way you could possibly talk about, you know, racism and this kind of thing. And I just remember when it won, I have a video coming out about like ranking best picture winners at the Oscars. And I think I discovered that Green Book may literally be the worst film nominated that year in the Best Picture category. I think you could make an argument that every single film nominated above it was better than it. And I think you can make the argument that two of them, BlacKkKlansman and Black Panther, deal with race in a more interesting, nuanced way than Green Book did, which is kind of crazy that it's still won Best Picture. But basically, there was a bunch of controversy. Here's from the LA Times. A swirl of charges surrounded the film, with many involving racial politics. Shirley's family, the family of the real-life guy that Mahershala Ali played, castigated the filmmakers for excluding them, saying the movie's portrayal of Shirley as estranged from his family and the black community was hurtful. They also called into question the depiction of his friendship with Vallelonga, the guy who Viggo Mortensen played. Dr. Maurice Shirley, Donald's brother, described the movie as a, quote, symphony of lies. And I think, I mean, I was looking into this briefly. There was other stuff. This is from goldderby.com. There were like other controversies just surrounding this that, I was going to say that didn't help it, but it won Best Picture, so, you know, what do I know? But co-star Viggo Mortensen was called out for using the N-word at a screening when describing insults Don Shirley faced during the era. Shirley's family denied that the late musician had a strong friendship with Tony Lip. Yeah, this was sort of, I remember this was the big one that like the family came out and said, yeah, this whole, you know, beautiful friendship, driving Miss Daisy type plot that you've tried to make here, like they did not have this type of relationship. And this, you know, again, even if just watching the movie, even if it was all completely real, it already feels like a kind of lame Hollywood, like, and look, and now they're friends or whatever. And, you know, the fact that it's also apparently inaccurate. Yeah. Then 6 weeks before the Oscars, co-writer producer Nick Vallelonga, I guess the guy maybe, apologized for an anti-Muslim tweet that was dug up. Peter Farrelly, one-time habit of showing his private parts as a joke. So a bunch of stuff came back to the surface. Jesus Christ, how the fuck did this win Best Picture? For numerous reasons, both quality of the film and then all of this other stuff that happened. But I think beyond the like individual things that came out about people surrounding the film, how it dealt with race. I remember Spike Lee, you know, we talked about him earlier. He was talking about it where he said it wasn't his cup of tea and this kind of stuff. And again, he made I don't know, I'm not like the biggest Spike Lee defender, but to make the movie BlacKkKlansman and the same year have it be snubbed for fucking Green Book, like, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too. Peter Farrelly's Green Book. But yeah, the inaccurate portrayal of the characters and all that. Yeah. Smear campaign, maybe, but it seems pretty, doesn't seem like it came out of nowhere. I mean, it seems like a pretty shitty thing to do and to make like a pretty whatever movie. So anyway, that's Green Book. That's the whole Green Book situation. We have then, again from the LA Times, the Zero Dark 30 stuff. I'll read here. When it was released, the film earned plenty of critical huzzas, with the Times calling it cinematic storytelling at its most effective, but it also drew opprobrium. Bro, LA Times, man, just put down the fucking thesaurus, Jesus Christ. Opprobrium, bro. With detractors taking aim at the movie's depiction of torture and questioning its veracity, the film became a flashpoint for partisan bickering when critics of the Obama administration claimed that the film's planned October release was timed to boost his re-election campaign. It was later moved to December. There were also claims by some conservative activists that the CIA provided classified information to Bigelow and her team as they researched the film, charges that were denied by the filmmakers. A Senate inquiry into the matter was later dropped, Reuters reported. So I did just think that it was interesting that the controversy around this film became very political I was too young when this came out to actually remember this going down. But yeah, just interesting to look at, especially with the political landscape we're in now, that even though it's different levels of things, there was still weird political, I don't say this is like culture war, but just political conversations happening around film back then as well. And the fact that there was like, talk of a Senate inquiry and like a whole government, actual like government involvement in this kind of thing. And they go on to note that Zero Dark 30 took home the award for best sound editing. For sound editing, Ben Affleck's Argo won the top prize. So yeah, that's the last one from the LA Times. And the last one I have here, 2018, the James Franco allegations saga. Now again, smear campaign is, I feel like is the wrong verbiage here to use, because these are allegations that are still relevant to his career and everything. It's not like it was like just one time and also we found this old tweet or whatever. These are allegations that were brought up against him. What is very interesting about it and how it relates to award season is the seeming tie it had to the Golden Globes and whatnot. Well, let's just go through what happened. This is from James Franco's Wikipedia. First of all, there had been allegations before involving James Franco and like a 17-year-old back in the day, and he tweeted some fucking crazy shit, apparently like, keep your teenage daughters away from me or some shit. I think he later apologized. There was a thing also, it's like it was legal in New York or something. I don't know. There was some creepy James Franco thing from the past. But then 2017, he's in The Disaster Artist, and I remember this, he was like the front runner to win it all, basically. It was kind of his breakout moment where he'd been like the funny comedy guy in Hollywood, and now he was like, he did a serious-ish movie, and he gave a big performance, and it was his moment, and he won the Golden Globe for Best Actor. And this, this is from the Wikipedia, so I'm sure there's nuances that I've not picked up here, but it seems like there was a kind of direct line from, he's at the Golden Globes, and he wears a Time's Up pin. If you remember Time's Up, it was around the Me Too movement, basically we're done with sexual harassment, mistreatment of women in Hollywood kind of thing. And, there was controversy of him wearing that because various women started coming out and being like, actually, like James Franco wearing like a Time's Up pin, like that's fucking crazy because this, that, and the other. And if you read the Wikipedia, it seems to sort of snowball from sort of allegations being made to articles coming out to him being dropped from various things. And he ends up, I remember watching him on Colbert where he talked about it, where I thought like, yeah, how are they, this is strange. How did they, on a Colbert type setting where the celebrity comes out and everyone cheers and he's, addressing these allegations and this kind of stuff, and how's he going to handle it? How's Colbert going to handle it? How does the audience handle it? That's not a relevant part of the story. I just remember watching that back in like 2018 and thinking this is a weird setup. But yeah, and then he ended up not getting nominated for Best Actor that year when it seemed sort of like it was his Oscar to lose. And now he is, again, you can read that, the Wikipedia's, it's a lot of shit going on. There's been lawsuits and allegations and whatnot. But yeah, kind of a crazy award season turn of events, allegations, all this stuff. Anyway, that was a video for today. I don't know, it gets into some pretty uncomfortable, unfortunate stuff, but I did think this was interesting where, some of these do seem like more smear campaigns, like digging up old stuff, or, I don't know, not to say that it's not legitimate to talk about, but, where maybe someone did some research to help out an Oscar campaign. Some of this other stuff, again, like I said, maybe not smear campaign exactly, but stuff that happened around award seasons or around the narrative around a film that might have affected, how things panned out in award season. Anyway, we'll see what happens this award season. I'm obviously not hoping that there'll be like anything serious coming out about anyone, but we'll see if there's any, any crazy AI allegations or anything else coming out about a film. Yeah. What do you think of all this? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, subscribe, check out my main channel, BHL Hudson, my podcast, The Poorly Planned Podcast, my Instagram, BHL_Hudson, and my Letterboxd at RealBHL Hudson. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.